Section 1, Video 1. In this unit we're going to be dealing primarily with equations, starting with rational equations. Now, when we look at problems, we want to be very careful to interpret properly what's being given. And this is review here, and we're going to just review and compare. If you have a fraction equal to a fraction, okay, it's called a rational equation, rational meaning fractions. But when you have one fraction equal to one fraction, we can do what you guys are familiar with, a cross product. So you'd multiply diagonally. In this case, you would get 2 times 5 on one side, and you'd get the binomial x minus 5 times the binomial x plus 4 on the other, in which you would distribute and you would go through the solving process there. But we'll get to that later. When you have two fractions that are being added or subtracted, it turns from an equation to an expression. Now, an equation you can solve, but with an expression, all you can do is really simplify. But it's important to remember that when you are combining or adding or subtracting rational expressions, you need a common denominator. Now, you do not need a common denominator when you are multiplying or dividing rational expressions, only when you're adding and subtracting. And we'll talk about that in greater detail later as well. Now, if you have a rational equation, again, just like you had right here, this is a rational equation. Here you have another rational equation, but the difference is you do not have one fraction equal to one fraction, so you're not able to cross multiply. Now, in this particular case, we'll learn a process which is right here, and again we'll talk about that in greater detail. But this process will allow you to get a common denominator and then cancel the denominators entirely, leaving you an equation without fractions, which is a nice thing to work with. And that's a brief overview of Section 1, and we'll go into greater detail in following videos. So this ends Section 1, Video 1.